Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. 3 weeks. That was all that stood between me and my wedding day. After 4 years together, I thought I knew exactly who Cynthia was. She wasn't perfect, and neither was I, but we'd built a life that made sense. We had a house, stable jobs, and plans that stretched years into the future. When I asked her to marry me the previous fall, she smiled before I even finished the question. "Yes," she laughed, throwing her arms around my neck. "I was wondering how long you were going to make me wait." For months, our evenings revolved around wedding plans. Guest lists covered the dining table. Cake samples filled the refrigerator. Every little detail seemed important to Cynthia, and I let her enjoy it. It was her day as much as mine. One Thursday night, she looked up from her laptop with a grin. "The girls finally booked my bachelorette trip." "Where are they taking you?" "Jamaica." I leaned back in my chair. "Not exactly a quiet weekend." She laughed. "It's a resort, Matthew. Pool, beach, good food. You're acting like they're dropping me in the middle of trouble." "I'm not acting like anything." I smiled. "I'm just saying one thing." She folded her arms. "And what's that?" "If I have to babysit my fiancé before we're married, then we shouldn't be getting married." She stared at me for a second before walking over and wrapping her arms around me. "You'll never have to babysit me." "I know. Do you?" "I wouldn't have asked you to marry me if I didn't." She kissed me. "I'll come home with a tan and probably 5 pounds heavier. I can live with that." The morning she left, I drove her to the airport before heading to work. She squeezed my hand before getting out. "I'll miss you." "Have fun." "I will." She pointed a finger at me. "And don't let your bachelor weekend get out of control." I laughed. "My idea of wild is grilling steaks at my brother Nathan's lake cabin." She smiled. "That's exactly why I'm marrying you." Those words stayed with me longer than they should have. My bachelor weekend was exactly what I'd promised. Nathan grilled burgers while my oldest friend, Andrew, spent half the evening trying to beat us at cards. "You know," Andrew said, raising his bottle, "this is probably the calmest bachelor party in history." "I wasn't looking for excitement." Nathan smirked. "He's been 80 years old since college." "I'll take that as a compliment." We spent Saturday fishing, watching football, and talking about everything except the wedding. Meanwhile, Cynthia barely answered her phone. Friday night, she texted that the beach party was louder than expected. Saturday afternoon, she replied nearly 4 hours after I called. "Sorry, we were out on a boat. Talk later." It wasn't enough to start an argument, but it wasn't normal either. Nathan noticed me checking my phone. "Everything good?" "Probably." "You don't sound convinced." I slipped the phone back into my pocket. "She's on vacation. I'm not going to be the guy who checks in every 30 minutes. "Good. I trust her." And I meant it. Late Saturday night, just after 11, my phone rang. The screen showed a name I almost ignored. Emily, one of Cynthia's bridesmaids. I answered. "Hey, Emily." There was nothing but heavy breathing for 2 seconds. Then she spoke quietly. "Matthew, I didn't know whether to call you." My stomach tightened. "What happened?" "I've been sitting here for an hour trying to talk myself out of this." Her voice shook. "But if I stay quiet, you're going to marry Cynthia without knowing what she did tonight." I stood up the second Emily finished that sentence. Nathan looked over from the porch. "You okay?" I held up a hand. "Give me a minute." I walked toward the edge of the lake where it was quiet. "Emily," I said, "start from the beginning. Don't guess. Don't exaggerate. Just tell me what you saw." She took a slow breath. "We all went to a beach party about an hour from the resort. At first, everything was normal. Music, drinks, dancing, and Cynthia met 2 local Jamaican guys. I stayed silent. They started buying drinks for all of us. Most of the girls ignored them after a while, but Cynthia didn't. Did she know they were flirting? "Matthew, she was flirting back." I closed my eyes for a second but kept my voice steady. "What happened next?" "I pulled her aside." Emily's voice became firmer. "I told her, 'You're getting married in 3 weeks. Stop this now.'" "What did she say?" Emily hesitated. She laughed. "Laughed?" She said, "It's just vacation fun. Relax." That wasn't the woman I thought I knew. "I tried again," Emily continued. "I told her she was making a huge mistake. And she told me not to act like her mother." A few seconds passed. Then all 3 of them left together. "Left where?" "They walked to the parking lot." "You actually saw it?" "Yes." She paused again. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, so I followed them. My grip tightened around the phone. They got into a black SUV. Were they forcing her? No. Was she drunk enough that she didn't know what she was doing? No, Emily answered immediately. She was drinking, but she was walking straight, laughing, and holding one of their hands. That answer hit harder than anything else. Then she said something I wasn't expecting. I took pictures. I frowned. What? I knew nobody would believe me. A second later, my phone vibrated. 3 images came through. I opened the first. Cynthia stood between 2 men on the beach, smiling as one of them had his arm around her waist. The second showed all 3 of them walking toward the parking lot. The last one was time-stamped just after midnight. Cynthia was climbing into the back seat of the SUV while looking directly at the camera. She wasn't scared. She wasn't confused. She was smiling. Emily spoke softly. I'm sorry. You did the right thing. I figured she'd deny everything. Maybe. I looked at the last picture one more time. But she won't deny it to me. I ended the call. Nathan walked over. You've got that look. What look? The one you get when you've already made a decision. I handed him my phone. He looked through the pictures without saying a word. When he finished, he gave it back. What are you going to do? I unlocked my phone and pressed Cynthia's name. I'm ending this. She answered on the 4th ring. Hey, babe, she said cheerfully. Everything okay? No. Silence. I just got off the phone with Emily. Another silence. Longer this time. Finally, Cynthia spoke. What did she tell you? I'll ask once. My voice stayed calm. Tell me the truth. You don't understand. I didn't ask for an explanation. Another pause. Then she tried anyway. It wasn't what it looked like. I have pictures. The silence that followed told me everything. When she finally spoke, her confidence was gone. Matthew. No. Please just let me explain. The truth. Nothing else. Just the truth. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I made a mistake. I looked across the dark lake. No. What? A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. I took a slow breath. You chose to leave with 2 men. I was drunk. The photos say otherwise. She started crying. It just happened. It doesn't just happen. It was one stupid night before the wedding. I wanted one last crazy memory. There it was. Not alcohol. Not confusion. A choice. You planned it. I didn't plan it. You just admitted you wanted it. She sobbed into the phone. It didn't mean anything. It means enough. Matthew, please. We're done. What? The wedding is canceled. No. It is. You can't throw away 4 years over one night. I answered without raising my voice. You threw away 4 years tonight. Please, don't do this. I didn't. You did. I ended the call before she could say another word. My phone immediately started ringing again. I watched Cynthia's name appear on the screen. Then I turned the phone off. The wedding was over. I turned my phone back on the next morning. There were 32 missed calls from Cynthia, 17 text messages. None of them changed anything. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I made coffee, opened my laptop, and started canceling the wedding. The venue manager sounded surprised. Are you sure, Matthew? You're only 3 weeks away. I'm sure. Next came the caterer, the florist, the photographer, and the honeymoon reservation. By noon, almost every major booking was gone. Then came the harder part, calling our families. My parents didn't ask many questions. My father simply said, "You made the right call if she broke your trust." Cynthia's parents were different. Her mother sounded panicked. There has to be a misunderstanding. There isn't. Cynthia said you wouldn't even let her explain. I heard enough. I didn't argue. I wasn't interested in convincing anyone. If they asked why the wedding was off, I told them the truth. She cheated during her Bachelorette trip in Jamaica. After that, nobody had much else to say. That afternoon, I packed everything Cynthia owned into moving boxes. Clothes, shoes, makeup, books, everything went into the guest room near the front door. I also took down every wedding photo and every decoration we'd bought together. By the time her flight landed that evening, the house no longer looked like a place preparing for a wedding. It looked like a place where someone had already moved out. Just after 7, I heard her key in the lock. She stepped inside carrying her suitcase. The smile she forced disappeared the second she saw the boxes. Matthew, you came back. Tears filled her eyes immediately. I know you're angry. I'm past angry. She walked toward me carefully. I've been crying the whole flight. Please, just let me explain everything. You already did. It wasn't supposed to happen. You keep saying that. She wiped her face. I'll go to counseling. I'll quit drinking. I'll do whatever it takes. I looked her straight in the eyes. The woman I asked to marry respected me. I nodded toward the boxes. The woman who came back from Jamaica isn't the same person. She started crying harder. Please don't throw us away. I didn't. I opened the front door. You need to leave. Cynthia didn't argue anymore. She looked at the boxes, then back at me. I could see she finally understood I wasn't bluffing. I never thought you'd actually end it, she said quietly. I don't make threats. She lowered her head. I know. I carried 2 boxes to her car without saying another word. She loaded the rest herself. Before getting into the driver's seat, she turned toward me one last time. If I could take that night back, I would. I folded my arms. But you can't. She nodded, got in her car, and drove away. That was the last time she stepped inside my house. The next few days were busy. Work kept my mind occupied, and when I got home, I focused on getting rid of anything that reminded me of the wedding. The guest room was empty again. The engagement photos came off the walls. Life moved forward because I made it move forward. 4 days later, Emily called. I was wondering how you were doing. I'm fine. She laughed softly. That's the shortest answer you've ever given me. I've had a busy week. I figured. There was a brief pause. I was thinking about grabbing lunch tomorrow. Nothing serious, just checking in. I considered it for a moment. All right. We met at a small cafe near my office. For the first 20 minutes, we talked about anything except Cynthia. Then Emily set her coffee down. There's something I should have told you months ago. I looked at her. What is it? She sighed. Cynthia didn't suddenly become someone else in Jamaica. What do you mean? There were other trips. Nashville, Miami, Scottsdale. I frowned. She cheated before? Emily shook her head. Not that I ever saw, but she loved attention from other men. She flirted, accepted drinks, danced way too close. Every time I told her to stop, she'd say, "It's harmless." Why didn't you tell me? Because every trip ended with her coming home to you. I honestly believed she'd grow out of it before the wedding. I leaned back in my chair. So, Jamaica wasn't one bad decision. Emily slowly shook her head. No. It was the first time she decided not to stop. For the first time since that phone call, everything made sense. I wasn't mourning the woman I thought I'd lost. I was finally seeing the woman I'd almost married. Emily and I stayed in touch after that lunch, but neither of us rushed anything. She wasn't trying to replace Cynthia, and I wasn't looking for someone to fill an empty space. Most of our conversations were about work, family, or whatever game was on that weekend. It was simple, and that was exactly what I needed. Cynthia, on the other hand, refused to accept that it was over. The first letter showed up in my mailbox a week later. Inside was a handwritten apology, 4 pages of promises, excuses, and memories. I folded it back up and threw it away. A few days later, flowers arrived at my office. I handed them to the receptionist. Give these to someone who wants them. Then the phone calls started from numbers I didn't recognize. Every voicemail sounded the same. Please call me back. I know we can fix this. I still love you. I deleted every one. The first real confrontation happened outside my gym. I walked into the parking lot after my workout and saw Cynthia leaning against her car. She stepped in front of me before I reached my truck. We need to talk. We don't. Just 5 minutes. You've already had more than enough. She looked exhausted. I've spent every day thinking about what I did. That's your job now. Tears filled her eyes again. You're throwing away 4 years over one weekend. I looked at her without flinching. No, she frowned. I'm throwing away one lie that lasted 4 years. What does that even mean? It means Jamaica showed me who you really were. She shook her head. I made one terrible choice. No, you made dozens. What are you talking about? I had lunch with Emily. The color drained from her face. She told me about the other trips. Cynthia, maybe you didn't sleep with anyone before Jamaica. I took one step closer. But you kept testing the line until one day you decided to cross it. She opened her mouth but couldn't answer. I unlocked my truck. This conversation is over. As I climbed inside, she called after me. I still love you, Matthew. I looked at her one last time. People protect the things they love. Then I shut the door and drove away, leaving her standing alone in the parking lot. About 2 months passed before I heard Cynthia's name again. It wasn't from her. It was from Andrew. He called me one evening after work. You got a minute? Sure. I figured you should know what's being said. What now? Andrew sighed. Cynthia's been telling people you became controlling after she got back from Jamaica. She's saying you overreacted over a misunderstanding. I wasn't surprised. When that didn't work, he continued, she started saying Emily broke the two of you up. I let out a quiet laugh. So now Emily's the villain. That's the story she's pushing. I thanked him and hung up. An hour later, Emily called. I think we need to meet. We met at the same cafe where we'd had lunch weeks earlier. Emily placed her phone on the table. I've been hearing the same rumors. You kept the pictures? She nodded. I kept everything. She opened a folder. Besides the 3 photos she'd already sent me, there were several short videos. None of them were explicit. They didn't need to be. One showed Cynthia dancing with the 2 men while her friends tried to pull her away. Another captured Emily saying, Cynthia, don't do this. You're getting married. Cynthia laughed into the camera. I'm getting married in 3 weeks. Let me have one crazy night. Then she walked away with both men. Emily locked her phone. I never wanted anyone else to see these. They won't. The following afternoon, Cynthia showed up outside my office. I need 5 minutes. You've had enough minutes. People are turning against me. You mean they're hearing the truth? She took a shaky breath. You told everyone. No, you did that yourself. She stared at me, confused. I continued. You cheated. Then you lied. Then you blamed me. Now you're blaming Emily. Her shoulders dropped. I panicked. I know. I just wanted my life back. You had it. You gave it away in Jamaica. She started crying again. I never thought one decision could destroy everything. It didn't. I held her gaze. It revealed everything. She stood there without another word. I turned, walked into my office, and blocked her number before I reached my desk. That was the last time I ever saw Cynthia. Almost a year passed before I looked back on everything without feeling angry. Life had settled into a routine again. I earned a promotion at work, moved into a different house across town, and spent more weekends at my brother Nathan's lake cabin than I had in years. It was quiet there, and I realized I'd always preferred quiet over chaos. Emily became part of that new life without either of us forcing it. What started as occasional lunches turned into weekend hikes, family cookouts, and long conversations that never felt complicated. Neither of us pretended the past hadn't happened. We simply didn't let it control what came next. One evening, Nathan pulled me aside while we were cleaning up after a barbecue. You know, he said with a grin, this is the first time I've seen you genuinely happy since before the engagement. I looked over at Emily, who was laughing with my mother on the deck. I think you're right. Don't mess it up. I smiled. I don't plan to. A few months later, I asked Emily to spend the weekend at the lake cabin. The place hadn't changed. Same dock, same old fishing boat, same porch where Andrew had joked that I was the oldest young man he'd ever met during my bachelor weekend. Only this time, everything felt different. That evening, we sat at the end of the dock as the sun disappeared behind the trees. I reached into my jacket pocket. Emily looked at me and smiled. You've been nervous all day. I've been making sure I do this the right way. I got down on one knee. Emily, you told me the truth when it would have been easier to stay quiet. You stood beside me without asking for anything in return. You earned my trust before you ever earned my heart. I opened the ring box. Will you marry me? She covered her mouth with both hands. Then she laughed through happy tears. Yes. When I slipped the ring onto her finger, I realized something. Jamaica hadn't ruined my life. It had exposed a future that would have been built on lies. Canceling that wedding wasn't the worst day of my life. It was the day I stopped settling for someone who didn't value loyalty. Looking back now, I don't remember the betrayal nearly as much as I remember the decision that followed it. Walking away wasn't the hard part. It was the right part. And that decision gave me the life I was always supposed to have. Thank you for watching.